Before the wedding, a fire broke out on Changle Street, and I was trapped in Juke Tower with Peiyan's cousin. He galloped over in a hurry, saved his cousin, and completely forgot about me. I thought he was just being mindful of family ties and momentarily negligent, until I heard him make it clear to Mother Pei, since there is absolutely no possibility between Jiyuan and me in this lifetime, it doesn't matter who your son marries. Only then did I realize he was in love with his own cousin. Their relationship was taboo, and their love was restrained and painful. Marrying me, a country orphan girl, was nothing more than to spite his parents for tearing the lovebirds apart. However, even a clay figure has some temper. I calmly wrote the marriage dissolution letter, took the wedding dress I'd embroidered, and prepared to leave. But the Marquis Manor's gates were heavily guarded and locked at midnight. I steeled my heart and set my sights on the dog hole nearby. When I was stuck halfway through the hole, unable to go forward or back, the Court of Judicial Review's young minister Shia, feared by everyone in the capital, happened to pass by. He looked at me, a rare smile appearing on his face. The person I just risked my life to save is about to get stuck to death in this dog hole in the blink of an eye. Wouldn't that make my rescue in vain? I kept my head down, too preoccupied to reply, gritting my teeth as I inched forward a bit more. The broken stones at the hole's entrance dug painfully into my knees. My bundle came undone from my movements, revealing a flash of red wedding dress. Using the scabbard Shia handed me, I pulled hard, choked on a few mouthfuls of dust and dirt, and finally managed to crawl through the dog hole. Xiao's brows furrowed slightly, his gaze falling on my bundle. "Miss, are you running away from the wedding?" Barely suppressing the embarrassment in my heart, I only shook my head. My throat, irritated by smoke, still hurt when I spoke. "No, I'm not marrying him anymore." Shia was shocked. "The wedding is in just 1 month. How could?" My marriage arrangement with Peiyan was known to everyone in the capital. 3 years ago, Peiyan traveled to Yongzhou to study. When passing through Shu family village, he encountered bandits, and I rescued him from a pile of corpses, but it wasn't until he brought me back to the capital that I learned he was the heir of a marquis household. Compared to me, a lone country girl, our statuses were worlds apart. This marriage arrangement should have ended right there. But Peiyan insisted against all opposition that he would marry me as his wife. Lady Pei was furious, yet she had no way to deal with her most beloved youngest son. This matter caused quite a stir. Even the Empress personally inquired about it. The high branch I'd finally managed to grasp. I was actually letting go of no wonder Shia was astonished. Without time to dust off my skirt, I curtsied to him. "Sir has saved a heng twice in the future. If there is anything you need from a heng, just say the word." Seeing I didn't want to say more, Shia didn't press further, only looked up at the sky. "The night is deep and the dew is heavy. It is not safe for a woman to be out alone." "Where are you going, miss? I'll take you there." This question stumped me. Before Mother passed away, she urged me to return to the capital to help her find her relatives. Right now, I still can't go back home. I originally planned to find an inn to make do for the night, then look for a house to rent after daybreak. But past midnight, staying at an inn wasn't very cost-effective. I weighed the silver in my bundle, sighing somewhat resignedly. "Lord Shi, do you know where in the capital one can rent a house most affordably?" Shia looked at me with pursed lips, his stern brows and eyes revealing a noble air. "I'm afraid before you can rent a house tomorrow, the Pei family will find you first." "So what? Since the young lady is determined to leave, you must find a secure place to go." He said his household was short and embroiderer. Even a fool like me could tell he was showing me a way out. Shia, nephew grandson of the Empress, co-administrator of criminal justice throughout the realm, impartial and upright, with iron-fisted methods, young yet holding high office, everyone in court feared him to some degree. Though the Dingyu Marquis Manor wielded overwhelming power, their claws couldn't reach the Shia family. I was originally somewhat afraid of him too, but yesterday he was the one who saved me, and today he is the one helping me out of trouble. Right now my heart holds only gratitude, so I quickly nodded. Turning around to look, the vermilion lacquered gate was tightly shut, the pillars towered high, the stone lion stood imposing, a noble threshold utterly incompatible with someone like me. I clutched the bundle in my arms tighter, quickened my pace. Never looked back again. The moonlight was cold and clear, with a thick layer of snow piled on the eaves. I stepped on Xie Changxiao's shadow, walking faster and faster with each step. He slowed his pace, hesitating to speak. If Miss doesn't want to marry, why not discuss it properly with Pei Yan? Why must you crawl through a dog hole so disgracefully? I bit my lip, not knowing how to explain. Xi Changxiao didn't know how difficult it was for me to leave this Marquis manor. Yesterday, when Xi Changxiao's people sent me back to the Marquis manor, I was still somewhat dazed. My throat was hoarse from the smoke, my hands blistered from burns, yet I felt no pain. Only that scene of Pei Yan picking up Pei Jiuan and walking away without looking back pierced my heart with pain. Mother Pei came to see me. She had always been cold toward me, but this time she was much warmer. Jiuan's birth mother died early. She grew up by my side and sees a Yan as a younger brother. Don't overthink it. The wedding date is approaching. Just prepare peacefully for marriage, behave properly from now on, and continue the family line. The Pei family won't mistreat you. The attempted cover-up in her words was ready to burst forth. I really wanted to ask why Pei Jiyuan's eyes suddenly reddened when she looked at the jade bracelet on my wrist. Why, when she peeked at me from Pei Yan's embrace, there was a smug, mocking smile. Why, in that moment of danger, Pei Yan saved her and not me. But I knew well that these were all matters between Pei Yan and me. The answer I want can only be given by him. It wasn't until deep into the night that Pei Yan returned, covered in wind and snow. I heard he specially entered the palace to summon an imperial physician, then personally brewed the medicine, and only left after Pei Jiyuan fell asleep. I waited at the door waiting for his explanation. Pei Yan had been busy for a day and night, with dark circles under his eyes, unable to suppress his irritation. Aheng Zhuyuan is my cousin, saving her is only natural. I just carelessly forgot that you were also there. But clearly yesterday morning he was the one who made plans with me to go to Zhuke Tower together, to pick out jewelry and add to my trousseau. Right now you're also perfectly fine since nothing happened, don't keep dwelling on it. From now on, we're husband and wife, one body, so naturally we should be understanding of each other. As I was about to say more, he pressed his lips together tightly and pulled out a scroll from behind him. It was a painting by Master Shan Dao that I had been searching for desperately for a long time. Pei Yan took my hand, smiling somewhat helplessly. Aheng, yesterday I went to find this painting, which is why I missed our appointment. I thought you had already returned to the manor. I looked at the painting, my thoughts in turmoil. Back when we were in Shu family village, life was hard, and I had mentioned to him once that Master Shan Dao's paintings were exquisite and lifelike, very suitable for copying as embroidery patterns. I never expected he would truly remember it and actually help me find it. I clenched my palms. Perhaps I was overthinking. Perhaps I had misunderstood. 3 years of life and death together, relying on each other, bound by gratitude and affection that couldn't be fake. But that night, I couldn't sleep for a long time. The next morning, I went to look for Pei Yan, only to run into him talking with Mother Pei. Since in this lifetime there is absolutely no possibility between Jiyuan and me, it doesn't matter who your son marries. Mother P was furious and smashed a teacup. Since you know there is no possibility, why did you publicly save her yesterday? Your father just secured you a position at the Hanlin Academy. If those old fellows at the censorate find out, there'll be hell to pay. I thought you'd grown up now and knew some restraint. But after all this fuss, insisting on marrying some orphan girl from the countryside, you're just doing this to spite me. Speaking of Pei Jiyuan, Pei Yan's expression showed a trace of sympathy. Aunt treats her harshly. Who knows what kind of broken-down family she'll randomly match her with to marry over and suffer. Since I can't be her husband, I can only be her brother, to back her up, and absolutely can't let anyone bully her. Pei Yan knelt there, his face unable to hide his irritation. I know Mother means well for me. From now on, your son will definitely watch his words and actions and won't let anyone catch him making mistakes. You can rest assured, Aheng has a good temperament and is easily swayed. She couldn't be easier to handle, so there is no need to worry. She'll make things difficult for Zhoyuan. I stood in the corridor for a very, very long time, until my whole body was frozen through. Then I got up and left. Though I, Xu Heng, am alone and helpless, I still have my own dignity and bottom line. A lifetime is so long, I don't want to be trapped in the inner chambers, whitewashing this forbidden relationship. It will become a soft thorn in my heart, reminding me from time to time that my husband does not love me. The one he deeply loves is another woman. It was at this moment that I decided to leave. I calmly wrote the marriage annulment letter, packed my bundle, and went to bid farewell to Mother Pei. Upon hearing I wanted to leave, she fingered her prayer beads and said coldly, "You grew up in the countryside with no one to teach you proper manners, so today I shall teach you. With the wedding approaching, how can you easily go back on your word? My son is immature, I've already reprimanded him. Don't use this as an excuse to put on airs and make people laugh at you." After a moment's thought, I understood that Mother Pei was unwilling to let me go. Pei Yan insisted on marrying me as his wife, and everyone praised him for repaying kindness and having noble character. This marriage arrangement was known even to the Empress. Now that his official career is going smoothly, he certainly doesn't want to bear the infamy of being heartless and ungrateful because of me. Seeing that further words were useless, I could only turn back. Mother Pei sent over the old maidservant by her side. She pretended to console me with a few words, then said with a fake smile, "Miss, you don't know that our Marquis Manor has strict rules. All belongings must be clearly accounted for. If we're not careful and something goes missing, we servants will be punished." Her gaze fell upon my bundle. So she was afraid I had taken valuable things out of the manor. My nose stung. I clenched my teeth and used almost all my strength to force the tears back down. With trembling fingertips, I untied the bundle and laid out everything inside, one by one. There really wasn't much. Just a few changes of clothes. A silver hairpin my mother left me, and a finished wedding dress. A somewhat worn amulet that Pei Yan got for me. That year I took embroidery to town to exchange for his medicine. On the way back, I got caught in a rainstorm and was trapped in the mountains. Pei Yan dragged his sick body to find me. He specially went to the temple to get this amulet, saying it would keep me safe and sound. Unfortunately, the cord broke later. I kept thinking about finding a suitable replacement, but never did. There were also a few newly made sachets filled with herbs to calm the mind and focus the spirit. After Pei Yan recovered from his illness, he was left with insomnia. He could only fall asleep while smelling the sachets. These things, I suppose he won't need them anymore. The Marquis Manor is wealthy and powerful, what don't they have? Looking at these things was like seeing the 3 years Pei Yan and I depended on each other. Has Granny seen clearly enough? That Granny's expression changed. She made a few excuses and hurried off. I waited the whole day before Pei Yan finally came back. I solemnly handed that annulment letter to him. He only glanced at it once. And when he looked at me again, his face had darkened considerably. "Aheng, are you done making a fuss?" I looked at him, my nails digging deep into my palms. "Pei Yan, the person you actually love is Pei Juan." Actually, there had been signs of this all along. I was just too slow to notice. Pei Yan's room, every table and chair, was arranged according to Pei Juan's preferences. On his old robes, embroidered at the hems, were all tiny paper kites, even outside his window. What he planted were the plum blossoms Pei Juan loved most. I still remember when I first arrived at the Marquis's manor, the way Pei Juan looked at me, suppressed jealousy and pain, and later in secluded places, accidentally catching them making eye contact, then hastily looking away, that subtle tension. These things only now do I recall them bit by bit. Pei Yan was silent for a long while, neither confirming nor denying. He just lowered his eyes and said flatly, "So, is that why you pushed Jiyuan away at the Vermilion Bird Tower and made her sprain her ankle?" "Aheng, when did you become so jealous? Jiyuan even explained for you while she was sick, saying you didn't mean it. In this matter, you went too far." I could hardly believe my own ears. What if I told you that the one who did the pushing was actually her, not me? Would you believe me or her? That day, when the fire spread to the second floor, it was Pei Jiwan who shoved me aside and rushed downstairs first. I was half a step slower, blocked by a falling beam. If Shia Changxiao hadn't arrived in time, Pei Yan sighed and looked at me deeply. "I grew up with Zhe Yuan since childhood. How could I not know what kind of person she is?" She and I were just young and foolish, momentarily infatuated. My family has already arranged a marriage for her. The wedding is next month. You can rest assured and stop making such unreasonable scenes." His gaze fell on my empty wrist. "Where is that bracelet?" I had already taken it off and left it in his room. Jiyuan has loved this bracelet since she was little. She asked me for it as part of her trousseau, and I agreed. Pei-yan grasped my wrist, his gesture intimate, softening his tone. "Aheng, this is the last thing I'll do for her. From now on, there will be no one else between you and me. Once we're married, we'll live a good life together." He didn't give me a choice. Just like when I came to the capital, it was the same. I watched his figure disappear outside the courtyard. The tears pooling in my eyes finally couldn't help but fall. When going to deliver the bracelet to Pei-yan inexplicably felt somewhat uneasy. He looked back at the Marquis Manor from afar, feeling that the towering courtyard was like a coiled beast, inexplicably making him feel 3 parts fear. He had seen the dirty schemes of the inner household since childhood. Aheng had a good temperament and was soft-eared. He feared she would be bullied. It must have been some loose-lipped servant who let Aheng know about him and Jiyuan. Halfway there, he was dragged off by a few close friends to drink. Even Xie Changshao, who was always impatient with social gatherings, was there. They were all classmates from the Imperial Academy, knowing each other inside out. After 3 rounds of drinks, someone brought up the fire on Changle Street that day. "Pei-yan, you really are something, carrying your cousin away in front of everyone like that. Aren't you afraid your fiancé will get jealous?" "Exactly. I was there that day too. When Changshao rescued her, she watched you two leave for a long time. She looked so heartbroken that even a rough guy like me couldn't help but feel for her." Pei-yan didn't know about this and was momentarily dazed. Aheng has been well behaved, but this time she rarely lost her temper and even talked about breaking off the engagement. She must have been truly jealous. Can't blame her, though. Forgetting about her at Zuke Tower that day was indeed his fault. Her heart and eyes were full of only him. No wonder she was so upset. "Anyun can see she is a good girl, dutiful and kind. Pei-yan, you've gone too far. What if she gets upset and runs back to Yongzhou?" Pei-yan put down his wine cup and laughed carelessly. "Yongzhou, she doesn't have a single relative there. Now she only has me. How could she be foolish enough to go back and suffer?" Back then, with his youthful temperament, when his parents forcibly separated him from his love, he left in a huff to study abroad. Unexpectedly, he encountered bandits and was saved by Aheng. He was angry with his family, so he simply changed his name and lived with Aheng in Yongzhou for 3 years. He saw clearly how well Aheng treated him. Now that he is back in the capital, a man living in this world should take fame and achievement as his ambition. Mother was right. His path to success shouldn't be dragged down by romantic entanglements. After giving away this bracelet today, he should let go of that chapter between himself and Jiyuan. As for Aheng, she has always been obedient and the easiest to coax. Even a worthless fake painting could make her happy. In the days to come, if he paid more attention to her and didn't let anyone bully her, their life would surely get better and better. Thinking this way, Pei-yan felt more at ease and called the waiter to bring another pot of good wine. Suddenly, Xi Changshao, who had been silent all along, spoke up. Changshao has been troubled by something recently and would like to hear everyone's advice. Everyone was curious and Pei-yan urged, "Stop keeping me in suspense. When have I ever seen you this troubled?" Xie Changshao chuckled softly, his normally cold and stern face unusually animated. "A few days ago I picked up a little kitten, covered in wounds and cowering in a corner. Its voice hoarse from crying. Brother Pei, what do you think if you came across such a pitiful little thing? What should be done?" Pei-yan took a sip of wine and replied casually, "Since you picked it up, just take it home and raise it." Xia Chang shook his head, looking somewhat troubled. "But what if this cat had an owner before? I'm afraid that old owner might come back to claim it someday." Pei-yan chuckled lightly, rather caustically. "The old owner treated it poorly, so others aren't allowed to treat it well. There is no such logic." Hearing this, Xie Changshao nodded meaningfully. "Brother Pei speaks truly." Just then, an attendant quietly entered and whispered something in Pei-yan's ear. Peiyan suddenly stood up, unable to believe it. What, Aheng left? Perhaps the moonlight was too beautiful tonight and I couldn't help but say a few more words, then felt somewhat embarrassed after speaking. I hope Lord the Shi doesn't find me long-winded. Shi Changshao looked down at me, his gaze softening by a third. Miss, you did the right thing. You needn't wrong yourself for someone unworthy. I stared at him blankly, my eyes growing somewhat hot. I awkwardly escaped his concerned gaze. The Shia household was simple. Apart from Mother Shi and Shia Changshao, in the vast mansion, there were only a cook and a few rough servant women. I wanted to repay their kindness, and didn't wish to receive a monthly salary. But Shi Changshao said that in asking me to come, he had selfish motives. He took out the handkerchief I had used to stop his bleeding yesterday, pointing at the little cat embroidered on it. My younger sister died young, leaving only her swaddling clothes from back then. Mother treasures them like precious jewels. Over the years they've become old and worn, but fearing they'd be ruined, she has never dared to find an embroiderer to mend them. Looking at the young lady's embroidery work, it is extremely similar to that swaddling cloth. I wonder if the young lady could help mend it. I nodded repeatedly and agreed. He said that Mother Shia had developed hysteria after the death of his younger sister, sometimes mad and sometimes lucid, and asked me to be patient with her. The next day, even though I had mentally prepared myself, I was still badly startled by Mother Shi. Her eyes were bloodshot red, her long hair dishevelled, clutching the swaddling cloth tightly in her arms, completely ignoring my gentle persuasion. Seeing her getting agitated and about to bite my hand, Shia Changshao quickly chopped the back of her neck with his palm and ordered the servants to fetch a physician. I focused my attention on the little cat on the swaddling cloth. Although more than half of it was damaged, one could still see the kitten's charming form, the embroidery delicate and exquisite. With just one glance, I recognized it. These were Mother's stitches. My heart pounded, and I grabbed Shia Changshao's sleeve, almost crying tears of joy. When my mother was rescued by chance by my father, she had already lost her memory and forgotten her origins. It wasn't until just before she died that she vaguely remembered it was probably in the capital. This swaddling cloth before me was exactly an excellent clue. Aheng dares to trouble Lord Shi once more. Could you help investigate my mother's background? Shia Changshao's body stiffened, and he cleared his throat somewhat uncomfortably. This Shia will certainly do his utmost. His gaze fell on the sleeve beneath my hand. My heart skipped a beat, and I hastily let go, retreating half a step. Shia Changshao bowed slightly and lowered his eyes, inexplicably seeming somewhat forlorn. The swaddling cloth was terribly worn and tattered, taking a great deal of time to mend. I busied myself for an entire month and barely managed to mend half of it. Little did I know, during that month, Peiyan had nearly turned the entire capital upside down searching for me. I had originally thought that noble families in the capital had strict rules, and the Shia family would be no exception, so I prepared myself to be cautious and careful. But everyone in the Shia household treated me extremely well, and there were few rules in the residence. Just one to eat and sleep on time when Mother Shia wasn't having an episode. She was an extremely gentle and refined woman. She was exceptionally kind to me, always affectionately calling me a heng. When it came to Shi Changshao, Mother Shia had a bellyful of grievances. My son is good in every way, except he keeps delaying marriage, which worries me so. Shi Changshao was 23 years old. Other young men at his age already had children, so no wonder Mother Shia was anxious. It is just that he was upright and honorable, with growing power and influence at court. How could marriage be difficult for him? I consoled her. Perhaps the right match hasn't come yet. Mother Shi shook her head repeatedly. I think he has someone in his heart, which is why he keeps refusing to marry. As she spoke, Shia Changshao happened to enter the room. Our eyes met, and he suddenly looked away. I was just feeling puzzled when I suddenly heard Mother Shia chide. Thanks to Aheng, I've been able to see you more often lately. Shia Changshao was busy with official duties and almost always stayed at the government office. It was rare for him to come home and dine with his mother during this time. As they were talking, servants carried in a large wooden chest. It was packed full with silk threads that shimmered brilliantly under the sunlight. This type of silk thread was unique to foreign countries, fine as hair, tough and durable, and could even be split into 48 strands. It was precious and hard to find. I had only mentioned it to Mother Shia once in passing, but unexpectedly, he actually helped me find it. Back when I was at the Pei residence, Mother Pei had occasionally obtained a box of it. I was so envious and begged Pei Yan to help me get some. Pei Yan was rushing out to a banquet at the time and casually agreed, but even after the embroiderers used up that entire box of silk thread, I never received any. Seeing my disappointment, Pei Yan coaxed me, saying that embroidery was merely a pastime for ladies in their chambers. The household employed many embroiderers, so why would I need to do it myself? After marriage, I would need to learn to manage the household and support my husband and raise children. It should just be treated as a way to pass time, not something worth dedicating effort to master. He spoke as if it were obvious, seemingly forgetting that the silver that paid for his medical treatment and education was earned by my embroidery, stitch by stitch. After that, I never spoke to him about embroidery again. Outside the door, the attendant Fuxi entered while complaining. "My lord, this silk thread arrived in the capital just a quarter of an hour ago. It wouldn't be late to send it tomorrow. Miss Aheng is right here in the residence. It is not like she'll run away. Whenever it concerns the young lady, my lord tends to get anxious. Last time was the same when you heard the young lady was heartbroken and leaving. You waited outside the Pei residence for most of the night." The latter half of the sentence was silenced by Shi Changshao's glare. I looked at Shi Changshao in surprise, so he knew all along. Knew that Pei Yan treated me poorly, knew that I was leaving. But why did he wait outside the gate? 1,000 tangled thoughts swirled chaotically in my heart, and for a moment I didn't dare meet his eyes. Shi Changshao coughed awkwardly and asked me, "Take a look at this silk thread. Is it the one you need? If not, I'll send someone to find it again." I snapped back to my senses and fondled the silk thread lovingly, unable to suppress a smile. "It is indeed. Thank you for your trouble, my lord." With this silk thread, I could replicate Master Shandao's painting of fish swimming in water. Just as I was lost in thought, I suddenly heard Shi Changshao say, "Tomorrow, come with me out of the residence for a bit." I raised my eyes and met his gaze, momentarily stunned. Shi Changshao smiled gently, his jade-like handsome face taking on a touch of solemnity. "I found your family for you." Mother was actually Master Shandao's daughter. I was so shocked by this news that I couldn't recover for a long while. Master Shandao was a great scholar of the age, unmatched in poetry and calligraphy, and even more renowned throughout the realm for his exquisite painting skills. He had only one daughter, who at the age of coming of age had a falling out with the family, and went alone to Zhangbei, whereabouts unknown ever since. The white-haired and white-bearded Taoist Master Shan Zhen, upon seeing me, shed tears of joy. When asked about mother's matters, he was unable to calm his emotions for a long while. Back then, if he hadn't forbidden mother from teaching her art and forced her to marry and bear children, mother wouldn't have run away from home. I too had nearly cried, my eyes swollen. As I lowered my eyes to wipe my tears, a hand with distinct knuckles offered me a handkerchief. I silently accepted it, feeling a warmth in my heart. In the end, it was Shi Changshao who smiled and interrupted us. "Master, don't harm your health. Now that you've found your granddaughter, you should be happy." Taoist Master Shan Zhen smiled with relief and clapped his hands in agreement. He said he would hold a grand banquet to announce my identity to the world. Looking at the paintings displayed everywhere in the room, I mustered my courage and said, "Aheng wishes to ask grandfather for something." "What is it?" "Grandfather's paintings are treasures of this world. Aheng wishes to replicate them as embroidered works." Integrating the art of painting into embroidery was a thought that had lingered in my heart for a long time. Grandfather was startled and frowned slightly. What I paint are the landscapes in my heart. How can they be diminished in spirit by women's embroidery? This was the prejudice most people in the world held toward embroidery, believing that embroidered works could only capture form, not spirit, but I was determined to embroider the spirit itself. I once discussed this idea with Pei Yan. It was at the Pei family's poetry gathering. Even though I kept my voice extremely low, Pei Jiyuan still overheard. She covered her lips and smiled, as if I'd told the biggest joke in the world. Little sister certainly has high aspirations. But this art of painting emphasizes the 6 principles and vital energy. I'm afraid little sister hasn't even read any painting treatises, has she? You grew up in the countryside, illiterate and uncultured, to think that with a few stitches you could embroider the refinement of masterworks by great artists. Isn't that too naive? Her deliberately raised voice drew everyone's sidelong glances. I thought Pei Yan would speak up for me, but he remained silent, and only after a long while did he say with a stern face, "Ah Heng Jiyuan is a talented lady of the capital, especially skilled in painting. You should seek her guidance more often in the future." He tacitly approved of what Pei Jiyuan said. He thought I was being fanciful, and now even grandfather was the same. I was just mulling over what to say when I saw Shia Changshao take out the swaddling cloth. I'd half mended and present it before grandfather with a respectful expression. "Teacher, you're fishing alone in the cold river painting from 30 years ago, used only 3 strokes of light ink to capture an entire scroll of solitude, breaking the conventions of the 6 principles yet becoming a timeless masterpiece. Look, Ah Heng uses the needle as brush, thread as ink, combining painting and embroidery. Her skill rivals heaven's craftsmanship, and her embroidery breaks new ground. It is the same principle. Embroidery and painting share the same origins. How is it that you've come to mind such class distinctions as embroidery being inferior to painting?" I stared blankly at Xie Changshao, surprised that he spoke up for me, and that every word struck a chord in my heart. This is exactly that feeling of being seen, being understood. True support has never been just saying, "I support you with your mouth," but rather like Xia Changshao, understanding your persistence, understanding your value, and when you are being questioned, firmly standing by your side, backing you up, defending you. Grandfather stroked his beard in quiet contemplation, and finally nodded in agreement. I was concerned about the half-finished swaddling cloth, so I didn't stay at grandfather's house, only promising to come over daily to learn painting from him. On the carriage back to the Shia family home, I asked Xia Changshao, "This kind of imitative painting embroidery is quite improper. Why didn't Master Xia advise me against it, but instead spoke up for me?" Nowadays, when young ladies of good families do embroidery, they mostly follow patterns to determine stitching methods, completing it in one go, with fine evenness and neatness being considered high quality. Unlike me, who uses different threads and stitching methods like painting, with strokes flowing freely, utilizing the light refraction of silk threads, striving for vivid spirit and rhythm. To be honest, I wasn't confident either. Xie Changshao had been propping his chin while gazing out the window, but upon hearing this, he turned his gaze back, his eyes pausing on me for a moment. "You're embroidering what you love in your heart. Why care about what others think?" Young lady's talent, if buried because of a single phrase about not conforming to rules, that would be truly regrettable. I stared at him in a daze, and my staring made Xi Changshao laugh. He was always stern and rarely smiled, but when he did, it was like ripples across a lake, inexplicably making one's heart flutter. I recall the first time I saw Xi Changshao. It was the day I first entered the capital. There happened to be officers handling a case, escorting a batch of prisoners. The man at the front rode a red-maned horse, wore a golden Luan belt at his waist. His expression indifferent. It was Xi Changshao, a swordsman attempting a prison break, burst out from the crowd, coming with fierce momentum. I saw him seize the reins with one hand, leap up from his horse, and with just one flash of his sword's cold light, that swordsman's head splattered red across the snow on the ground. I was terrified then, thinking he was the king of hell reincarnated. I was narrow-minded. Young Master Xia was truly a good person. I went to my maternal grandfather's house to learn painting every day, and sure enough, I still ran into Pei Yan. My maternal grandfather's house and the Pei family were only separated by one alley. When Pei Yan saw me, a flash of wild joy crossed his eyes. He reached out his hand toward me, still with that noble appearance, only now there were some dark circles under his eyes. "Ah Heng, come back with me. The wedding is in 3 days. I've been looking for you for a whole month. No matter how jealous you are or how much of a tantrum you throw, there should be a limit." I stepped back half a pace to avoid his touch, suddenly finding it ridiculous. A whole month had passed, and he still thought I was throwing a tantrum, thinking that with a few soft words I'd soften up like before. Pei Yan, have you forgotten that you and I have already broken off our engagement? His gaze fell on the carriage behind me. His expression suddenly changed, and he sneered knowingly. Aheng, no wonder I've been searching for so long and couldn't find you. Turns out you found yourself a backer. I'm telling you, even if you're deliberately finding a man to spite me and make me jealous, you can't choose him, Xiao Xiao. Looking at him, I felt like I'd never truly seen him clearly. Pei Yan, Lord Shia and I are completely innocent. I merely found myself work as an embroiderer at the Shia residence. Pei Yan still frowned, pressing aggressively. The future wife of the heir to the Dingyuan Marquis estate, yet you go work as a servant at the Shia family. Aheng, even if you're quarrelling with me, you can't make yourself a laughingstock. I looked at him coldly. Pei Yan froze, softening his tone, just like how he used to coax me after making mistakes. As long as you come back with me from now on, whatever you want to embroider, I'll go along with it. I'll have people buy the finest silk threads. I shook my head and lifted my foot to leave. My maternal grandfather was still waiting for me. I really didn't want to get entangled with him. Pei Yan pressed his lips tightly together, somewhat exasperated. Aheng, anyway, I don't agree to breaking off the engagement. 3 days from now, I'm coming to marry you. Remember, 3 days from now, without waiting for my response. He turned and quickly walked away, missing my words. I won't marry you. Xia Changxiao was injured. He got into a fight with Pei Yan. Fu Shi said that Pei Yan struck first, yelling something about kittens and puppies, and every move was a killing blow. His master replied with something like, "So I'm not allowed to let others treat her well," which made Pei Yan's face darken even more, and the two fought fiercely without resolution. Fu Shi was furious, and called Pei Yan an ungrateful wretch. Back then, if our master hadn't left him medicine for his wounds and taken off his own robe to keep him warm, he would have died at the hands of those bandits long ago. Fu Shi's words pierced my ears like a needle. I threw down my embroidery needle and went to see Shang Xiao. He was quite badly injured, with bruises still visible on his pale face. I stared at the bleeding corner of his mouth, my throat tightening. "Lord Xia, I'm truly sorry. I didn't know Pei Yan would go looking for trouble with you." Xia Changxiao shook his head, the corners of his lips curving upward. "It is fine. He is hurt worse than me." I thought for a moment and said earnestly, "I've already made things clear to him, but he doesn't believe me. Tomorrow I'll go find him again." Xia Changxiao interrupted me. "I don't want you to see him again." These words were truly somewhat overstepping bounds. "Pei Yan has declared that he'll marry you in 3 days, and has even refused the marriage arrangement with Pei Zhuyuan. It turns out that recently, Pei Zhuyuan's background was clarified. She is actually the daughter of the Earl of Yongqiang's household. Their birth mothers went to Lingshan Temple to offer incense on the same day and happened to be trapped by a sudden rainstorm. They gave birth prematurely in fright, and in the chaos the babies were switched. Learning that she had no blood relation to Pei Yan, Pei Zhuyuan wept tears of joy. She thought she could finally be united with Pei Yan, but unexpectedly, Pei Yan rejected her. Miss Aheng Xiaoxiao had called me Miss Aheng many times, but this time it was as if he had suppressed it for too long. Finally, letting these few words slip from between his lips and teeth. "If Pei Yan comes to pester you again, if Pei Zhuyuan makes things difficult for you everywhere." He paused, his Adam's apple bobbing, his voice growing softer and softer. "Why don't you just say you've already been promised to me? I asked my mother. She and your mother were close friends in their youth, and once jokingly talked about arranging a childhood betrothal. My heartbeat pounded against my eardrums. When I looked up, I met his eyes directly. The light in his eyes was so bright it was searing, yet he deliberately hid it in the shadow of his lashes. As if afraid to hear my response, he rushed to say more in one breath. "I'm not taking advantage of the situation, nor am I some frivolous type. If you're willing, feel free to use me to put an end to their thoughts. After all, my reputation still has some use. I just feel that since you devote yourself to studying embroidery, you should have peace and quiet, and shouldn't let these vexing matters drain your energy." He pulled out a thick stack of documents. "This is my stamped divorce agreement. If you ever feel unhappy, you can leave at any time. You need not pay respects morning and evening at home, nor manage the household. Everything shall prioritize your wishes. All the deeds to my fields and properties, and the keys to the storerooms, I entrust to your safe keeping. Miss Aheng, you need not answer now. If you're unwilling, you need not take it seriously. In his urgency, those words, Miss Aheng, came out heavy and rushed. With that said, he turned around hastily, his steps swift. Xie Changshao had always been steady and composed. This was the first time I'd seen him lose his composure. Xie Changshao, I called out to him. He stood frozen in place as if fixed there, only his shoulders tensing slightly, betraying his nervousness. Do you like me? As soon as the words fell, Xie Changshao's back stiffened for a moment, and he hummed very, very softly. Miss Aheng's embroidery is excellent, and your character is excellent too. I am indeed fond of you. I hugged the documents in my arms a bit tighter and smiled. All right. I agreed to Xie Changshao's proposal. Xie Changshao truly had respect etched into his very bones, even though he clearly had feelings for Aheng. He didn't take advantage of her vulnerability. Instead, he first handed her a properly sealed divorce agreement, promising her absolute freedom, telling her, "You can leave any time if you are unhappy." Worried that Aheng might feel troubled, he even said she could use him to ward off problems, never forcing her to make any choice. This kind of cautious favoritism is more touching than any flowery vow. When Mother Shia learned that I was going to marry Xie Changshao, she was as happy as a child. She opened the almanac, saying she had already calculated an auspicious date. 2 days from now, I checked very auspicious. It happened to be the very day Pei Yanyang declared he would come to marry me. I returned to my maternal grandparents' home to await the wedding. The Shia family seemed to have prepared. Early betrothal gifts were sent over in a steady stream, palanquin after palanquin, nearly filling the entire courtyard. My maternal grandfather, feeling sorry for me, also added a lot to my dowry. At first glance, it was clearly going to be a grand affair. The next day, Mother Xi had me go to a shop under her name to pick out some South Sea pearls to embellish my wedding dress. Unexpectedly, I ran into Pei Jiyuan. She stood in the shadows, looking at me coldly, as always haughty and superior. You sure have good tactics, deliberately leaving, playing hard to get, keeping Ian hooked. That day he actually said to me himself. She suddenly choked up, her eyes reddening, said he still can't let you go in his heart. I looked at her, only finding it baffling. What Pei Yan can't let go of is nothing more than his pathetic possessiveness. Miss Pei, I said coldly, whatever is between you and Pei Yan has nothing to do with me. She suddenly clenched her handkerchief tight, her knuckles turning white. Stop pretending. If you hadn't stirred things up between us, why wouldn't a Yan marry me? I really couldn't be bothered to get tangled up with her. Just then, the shopkeeper brought over the wedding dress with the South Sea pearls sewn on. 8 perfectly round South Sea pearls arranged in a crescent shape were adorned at the collar, each one glowing with a soft, lustrous light. One could tell at a glance that it was worth a fortune. Pei Juan's face instantly turned deathly pale, her chest heaving violently. How dare you wear such a wedding dress? She suddenly lunged forward and grabbed the sleeve of the wedding dress. Why? You're nothing but a lowly orphan girl from the countryside. Why should you? Pei Jiyuan had always adhered to the standards of a noble lady, dignified and elegant in every word and action. She must have been furious now, losing her composure to the point of such unseemly behavior. I was about to raise my hand when I suddenly heard Pei Yan shouting sternly from behind. Let go. When Pei Yan rushed in, he brought a gust of wind with him. He gripped Pei Jiyuan's wrist so hard that she cried out in pain. His voice was cold as ice. I told you not to cause trouble for Aheng. I've made it clear to you long ago, the marriage is off. In the past I was foolish and immature, young and reckless, always wanting to go against my family, which led me to make mistakes. Now I've come to understand, the person I love is Aheng. Pei Juan's entire body swayed unsteadily. She looked at Pei Yan, then at me, and tears finally rolled down from her eyes. Pei Yan, I hate you. Her departing figure looked as wretched as a sparrow drenched by rain. The shop fell silent for a moment. I bent down to pick up the wedding dress. When I raised my head, Pei Yan was reaching out his hand. I glanced at him and smoothed out the wrinkles on the wedding dress. As if he hadn't expected me to treat him so coldly, that hand hung awkwardly in mid-air, and only after a long while did it slowly withdraw. Aheng, she and I have had nothing to do with each other for a long time. Don't take it to heart. He looked at me cautiously, his tone almost ingratiating. Stop being angry with me. Okay, we're getting married tomorrow. We should be happy. Getting married, I thought I had made myself clear enough and was about to speak again. Pei Yan took the wedding dress from my hands first, his eyes brightening a bit. The wedding dress Aheng embroidered is so beautiful. I still remember how you looked when you were embroidering it. These past days I had rarely thought about what happened in Shu family village. When he suddenly brought it up, I recalled those days of being busy under the lamplight, even with 10 fingers pierced, still full of joy and anticipation, anticipating marrying him as his wife, never to part till white-haired. But all of that has already passed. I've already let it go. Pei Yan, I'm getting married. It is not. Pei Yan became excited and abruptly interrupted me. I know. I'll go back right now to check if there are any oversights with the wedding. Aheng, tomorrow. Wait for me with peace of mind. Having said that, he turned and strode away. I was speechless. The shopkeeper's expression changed again and again. The wedding invitations have all been sent out. How is young Master Pei still? I frowned, only feeling it absurd. Tell your young master. Early the next morning, gongs and drums resounded, voices bustled. The wedding procession had already arrived outside the door. I was led outside by the wedding attendant. My maternal grandfather tearfully squeezed my hand, extremely reluctant to part. Through the bridal veil, I could only see Xie Changshao's tall, blurry figure. Aheng, I've come to receive you. My hand was enveloped in his palm, dry and warm. Just as I bent down to step into the bridal sedan, a chaotic sound of horse hooves suddenly came from the end of the street. Move aside, all of you move aside. The entire street erupted in commotion. My heart skipped a beat, and Xi Changxiao pressed my palm firmly. Don't be afraid, I'm here for everything. My anxious heart settled down. Pei Yan's eyes were practically splitting with rage. How dare you, Xi Changxiao, to deceive me? Did you think I'd fall for your diversionary tactics, shameless? Aheng is my wife. I'm here to marry her today. Xia Changxiao chuckled softly and pulled out the marriage certificate archived at the Ministry of Rights. Young Master Pei seems to be confused. Today is clearly the auspicious day for Aheng and my wedding. Young Master Pei keeps saying, Aheng is your wife, may I ask? Of the 3 letters and 6 etiquettes, can you produce even one item as proof? Pei Yan was suddenly struck speechless. I knew all too well that back then, Mother Pei, because of my status as an orphan girl, said to keep everything simple and didn't want to bother. And Pei Yan didn't object either. In the end, no one cared about that marriage arrangement. Summonon come. Today is a joyous occasion for me, Shia, idle people, throw them out. Don't let them delay the auspicious hour. I don't know what method Xi Changxiao used, but suddenly I could no longer hear Pei Yan's voice. The sound of gongs and drums resumed. Xi Changxiao carried me down from the bridal sedan. Everything proceeded in an orderly manner, without any interference. At nightfall, the bridal veil was gently lifted. Xie Changxiao in his red robes, handsome as jade. He hesitated, wanting to speak but stopping. Pei Yan has been waiting outside. He wants to see you. If you don't want to, I interrupted him. I'll see him. Xie Changxiao's eyes suddenly dimmed until I said with a smile, I need to make things clear with him so he won't have any more foolish delusions. Only then did those beautiful eyes light up again. Pei Yan wore a wrinkled wedding outfit, his hair crown askew, his eyes filled with bloodshot veins. He stared blankly at the wedding dress I was wearing, his face full of disbelief. Aheng, it has only been a short month, and you really married him. Xiangxiang, do you know what kind of person he is? He has had ulterior motives all along. You've been deceived by him. I suppressed the surging emotions in my heart and nodded. I naturally know what kind of person Xie Changxiao is. He saved me from dire straits, rescued me from my Quinzhong Jizing. He saw my difficulties and couldn't bear to let me suffer the slightest grievance. I married him because he is truly an excellent person. It was the time he spent treating me well that made me realize you didn't treat me well. You knew full well I was isolated and helpless in the PI household, mocked and ostracized, yet you never stood up for me. You knew full well I wholeheartedly wanted to marry you, that it bothered you and PI Yuan, yet you never avoided suspicion, only wanting to use me to upset your family. You knew full well I was interested in studying embroidery, yet you freely belittled and mocked me, never caring whether I would be hurt. Pei Yan, even without She Changshao, I would never marry you. Pei Yan stared at me blankly, as if only at this moment did he realize I wasn't joking. I truly had cut ties with him. Once and for all, I, Xu Heng, came from the countryside and don't understand many grand principles. But I'm not stupid. I know who truly treats me well. Pei Yan staggered back 2 steps, pulled out that jade bracelet from his chest, and anxiously tried to slip it onto my hand. Ah, Heng, I was wrong. It is my fault. I shouldn't have treated you this way. Forgive me this once, will you? Seeing me dodge, his eyes reddened, filled with bitterness. Do you hate me this much? I only shook my head. No hate, no resentment, and no care either. Actually, back then, the person who blocked that arrow for me wasn't you. It was Shi Changshao, wasn't it? Pei Yan suddenly froze, a flash of panic crossing his face. From the very beginning, you've been lying to me. So this relationship was wrong from the start. Back then, when the bandits quietly entered Shu family village, I happened to be washing clothes by the river. My limbs went weak as I struggled to go warn the others. The bandit chief spotted me and shot an arrow at me. It was a man wearing indigo satin embroidered with cloud and crane patterns, and a mask on his face, who drew his sword and blocked that arrow for me. Then he galloped on horseback, charging toward the bandit horde. Because of this, when I later saw those clothes in the pile of corpses, I rescued Pei Yan without a second thought. The hand hidden beneath the sleeve trembled incessantly. Pei Yan closed his eyes, leaving only a despairing, bitter smile. Ah Heng, it is I who am despicable. From the beginning, it has always been I who was unworthy of you. I'm sorry. I turned and left, rounding the corridor corner. Fiery red palace lanterns illuminated a face as refined and jade-like as ever. Seemingly anxious, seemingly expectant, I reached out my hand toward him, smiling sweetly. Husband, it is time to go back and drink the nuptial wine. Several of the PI family's uncles were successively implicated in major corruption cases and thrown into prison. Pei Yan submitted a memorial to the emperor, requesting to go supervise the army in the northwest. The northwest had frequent warfare. Lacking food and clothing going there would certainly mean suffering hardship. Mother Pei cried until her eyes were swollen, but still couldn't make him change his mind. He persuaded Mother Pei, saying that since the family uncles had angered the emperor, he needed to go to the army to earn military merit in order to secure a future. I heard that before departing, he personally escorted Pei Jian to Jiangzhou to marry. Pei Jian cried the entire journey, letting her husband's family see something was amiss. On the very first day after the wedding, they brought in several concubines. Husband and wife sharing the same bed but different dreams in less than half a year, they separated residences. These trivial matters were all told to me by Fu Shi. He always felt his own master was the very best, and couldn't help mocking Pei Yan. If he really married that Miss Pei, I'd still respect him as a real man. But who knew he just personally sent her into the wedding hall like that? Unlike my master, who is upright and honorable, when he went to Yongzhou to suppress bandits, and fell for you at first sight, madam. Even though Pei Yan pretended to be your savior, and you favored him, my master never stooped so low as to interfere, but only silently. I was bent over organizing embroidery patterns, about to speak, when suddenly a cold voice came from behind. With such a loose tongue, do you not want this month's salary? Fu Shi cried out in distress, repeatedly winking at me. I nodded with a smile, put down my work, and invited Shi Shangshao to come see the picture of playful cats I had just finished embroidering. On the embroidery frame, 3 little cats lazily overlapped, their golden silk-like fur glowing faintly in the morning light, as if they would stretch and leap off the frame the next second. Most wonderful were those amber cat eyes. I had deliberately hidden a strand of silver thread in the darkest spots, and as light and shadow shifted, those eyes seemed to come alive. Xia Changxiao stood before the embroidery frame, his breathing unconsciously softening. He couldn't help but reach out his hand, but suddenly froze just as he was about to touch it, as if afraid of disturbing an illusion. I was pleased by his reaction and couldn't help but smile. The candle wick crackled loudly, and Xi Changxiao came to his senses, pulling me into his embrace. I knew a Heng could do it. The day Pei Yan left the capital, a torrential rain fell. The curtain of rain pressed darkly against his eyes. He stared futilely at the city gate, fantasizing that someone would hold an umbrella and suddenly appear before his eyes. But after staring for a long time, there was still no one there. He smiled bitterly, feeling that he was indulging in wishful thinking. A Heng could have been a kind and clever girl. When she was good to someone, it was good straight to the heart. He had just squandered her affection so wantonly. He thought that no matter what, a Heng would always wait for him. No matter how much of a bastard he was, she would always forgive him. It wasn't until she left, and he couldn't find her, no matter what, that he panicked. He discovered that he had truly fallen for her. When he finally found her, his restless heart was finally put back in its place. He thought he should give her a grand and glorious wedding, so he prepared with great joy, imagining how a Heng would look wearing that wedding dress. She would surely be extremely beautiful, but a Heng was actually going to marry Xia Changxiao. He could hardly believe his own eyes. It turned out she had learned the truth from back then. It wasn't him who had saved her. Those 3 years when a Heng treated him well were stolen by him. All explanations and pleas were pale and powerless. The surging sadness and regret pressed down on him until he couldn't breathe, could barely stand. At that moment he finally knew that he had lost a Heng. In the 2nd year after marrying Xia Changxiao, I opened an embroidery shop and established an embroidery school. Regardless of gender, anyone with 10 fingers and a willing heart to learn can enter. In the 3rd year, the Shu Embroidery Workshop became the finest embroidery house in the capital, its fame gradually spreading far and wide. In the 5th year, at the Emperor's birthday banquet, I presented a piece called 1,000 Miles of Rivers and Mountains. On 30 jang of plain silk, the Great Zhou's territory was rendered in perfect detail. From then on, Shu embroidery's reputation spread throughout the land. In the 6th year, the Western Chang's 200,000-strong army pressed at the border. Pei Yan, military supervisor of the Northwestern Army, personally led 3,000 elite cavalry out of the city to lure the enemy, and unfortunately died in battle. When his relatives came to collect the body, they discovered his armor was shattered to pieces, and clutched tightly in his chest was a faded, embroidered handkerchief, on which the needlework of Shu embroidery could still faintly be seen. What a shame. So young and already. When the news reached my ears, I was looking down, selecting lanterns. On Duke Street, 1,000 lanterns blazed together, candlelight reflecting off the night sky like a falling river of stars. That sigh, carried by the crowd, quickly vanished into the clamour. "Mother, come quick!" Xi Changxiao, holding our daughter, waved at me from the other side of the bridge. The flickering lamplight illuminated 2 faces, one large and one small, that resembled each other. I called back loudly. Turning back where the lanterns dim, there lies the finest beauty of the mortal world.